After its holiday season hiatus, Barney's World returned this week with a whopping 10-episode drop. This release is pretty special, as it contains our first multi-episode story arc alongside the contained episodic format. So let's dive right in and analyze what works, what could have been better, and what new memes Barney's World has for us this time. Save the Garden starts, where else, but in the playground's garden with Vivi and her Nona. While she's been able to salvage some crops, Nona tells Vivi that people are just too busy nowadays to maintain all the plants. Vivi, always eager to help, enlists Mel, David, and Barney to save it. The kids do their best to start the salvaging process, but to put it charitably, they suck. Vivi is unimpressed with the klutzy Barnado and vents her frustrations about not being able to do anything nice for Nona, which is jumping the gun a little bit, but okay, girl. Feeling too small to fix the garden, Barney tries to illuminate his point and proceeds to smallify everyone, and Barney and the Butterfly Gang meet with the Ladybugs, Baby Bop, and Billy. The little dinos have returned to their Creature of the Episode format and complain that one of the park's squirrels is making it impossible for Baby Bop to nap. David tries to talk down the non-sentient squirrel, and Mel attempts to lead the squirrel away, which results in even more squirrels showing up. If Vivi was trying to be normal about it before, she's really trying now. Barney says he understands being frustrated by wanting something to work out even when it doesn't, and Vivi trips on an acorn, which gives her the bright idea that they are big enough to move the acorns away in order to evict the squirrels. Barney teleports the acorn pile to a tree, speaks squirrel, which is apparently news to him, sure buddy, and succeeds in getting the acorn fiends to leave. Barney recounts that doing a bunch of small things made the big thing happen, and Vivi connects this concept to tackling the garden project. We can do big things illustrates the point the episode is trying to make a lot better than the acorn metaphor, honestly, and it does serve to introduce a character that might be Vivi's mom. I have no idea yet. You can never tell with this show's NPCs. This episode is a bit disjointed and reminds me of One Ripe Tomato from the last episode drop. There's good concepts presented, but they come off as confusing roundabouts of logic that just barely manage to tie themselves up at the end. The butterfly bit is cool, and you can see that Barney tried his darndest to set it up, but it doesn't follow through as well as his learning scenarios in Practice Makes Purple do. Not bad, not great, off to a thrilling start. Dances with Goblins, a very odd reference to Dances with Wolves, follows David and Mel as they play, well, goblins. I don't know what's with the show's track record when it comes to the kids constantly playing goblins and having plot-related pretzels, but okay, that's lore. David's a little confused as to why Vivi won't play their game instead of water flailing, so Mel summons Barney to help them reach a game consensus. Barney wants to play both games so as to not miss out on playing with anyone. He plays about 5 seconds of Nights with the gang before Vivi reminds him of her water dancer game. Barney spawns in a water fountain and is about to start dancing when David calls for him. You can see where this is going. Barney knocks Vivi over, leaves David holding this giant drawbridge, gets into a helicopter accident, and makes the castle key fly into the river. Barney laments that he's supposed to make games more fun, not to ruin them, which is a wild take. David gathers the gang up to tell him that he's never seen Barney this depressed before and decides to speak with him. Barney is manically switching between game costumes as practice when David asks him to talk. Barney reminds him that he's always there to talk, despite him being the one who went reclusive mode because he needed a dino minute. David apologizes for putting too much on him and reminds him that he can say no if he wants. David comes to the conclusion that someone should have suggested 11 minutes ago, and that's to combine their games. This solution works immediately. They sing "I love you" and we're out. A fellow Barney Wiki admin, go subscribe to him by the way, summed up the way this episode feels pretty succinctly. A rejected, late-stage Barney and Friends episode. Simply put, an out-of-character, morally rambling mess. When I reviewed I Love You, an episode that sees Barney becoming fearful of the dark, I chalked that up to Barney pretending to be so as to give David a chance to learn not to be scared and to work through his own feelings. Simply put, this is Barney acting to teach a lesson. Here, Barney seems a little too worked up and starts feeling straight up inadequate that he can't do 2 things at once, which literally no one can do. And halfway through this episode that you think is going to be either a "let's learn to take turns" or a "let's combine both games" story, it turns into a "it's okay to say no" moral, which isn't what the episode has been building up to. Obviously, it suddenly leers into the combined game point at the last possible second, but Barney's actions don't reflect that. It's completely serious. The combined game strategy isn't modeled at all. Everyone just suddenly agrees to it, and it works so perfectly that, again, you're just flummoxed that they didn't think of it sooner. This plot could work without the Barney going emo moment, and with the kids actually talking to one another about seeing if their two games could be combined or played in turn, but as is, it's rough. I did like that Baby Bop just got to be an actual character this episode and dance with Vivi instead of being another ad hoc creature, but that's about it. I can definitely see this episode going triple platinum on the infamous scale. Missing Mel finds David and Vivi looking for Mel, who has been gone for 2 days. Saving space for the Mel aunties who are cheering, neither of the kids nor Barney can find her, so they go down to her house. Mel's dad, Luis, tells them that she's broken her arm, but that he can take her to the park later today after she's had a chance to rest. Barney offers to play pretend with the kids to pass the time with some very familiar hats of his, but everyone's kind of sad and impatient. After Barney makes the soccer goal come alive, now Vivi and David decide they want to play pirates again. And we're back on the Barney ship. The two continue to prove that they can't actually seem to do anything without a third, and David sends the ship into a spiral that attracts Baby Bop and Billy, who are not sea monsters this time, but sharks. Shortly after evading them, the kids aren't up to playing at all, which kind of makes you wonder what they've been doing for the past 2 days when they had no idea when Mel would be back. Vivi has the bright idea to hold a welcome back party for Mel, and this seems to cheer everyone up. Mel arrives shortly after and is delighted to see what her friends have put together for her. Since Mel's broken arm saga is a multiple episode story arc, I guess you can't expect too much right off the bat. It's a decent start. Plus, the running gag of Barney's confetti cannon refusing to work until the last minute is probably the best part of the episode. The Castaway Crew starts with Mel being bombarded by pillows. While she's appreciative of her friends being caring, she doesn't need to rest the whole time. Purple-beard Barney is summoned for a game of Shipwrecked, which I guess is a little different than the regular pirate game they're playing again. The Barney ship slams into the shore, and Mel lays out her plan to build a shelter. Unable to go into the water to retrieve the driftwood due to her cast, Mel moves on to searching for food. Barney sonic rolls into a tree, which knocks some coconuts down and inspires Mel to try and climb up to get more. That's a no as well. A ship floats by, and Mel is frustrated by being unable to signal for help, the third of her steps to Shipwrecked. Mel vents to Barney that she can't play the way she wants to, which Barney understands, so he suggests finding a new way to play. After stating that her cast feels stiff like metal, she asks Barney to turn her arm into a robotic claw arm. Mel states that she can play the game now, but only with the help of her imagination. I have no idea how they're actually doing this. The song is, of course, about doing whatever you'd like in your mind, but I'm not sure if this is actually any better for Mel's broken arm because she's moving it quite a bit here. I guess you kind of have to chalk it up to Barney magic, but I don't know if him being a little too juiced up is getting in the way of them making actual accommodations for Mel being down an arm. Mel makes a laser light show in the sky to attract the ship's attention before Barney kind of inexplicably zaps them back so that the episode can end. Mel realizes that all she needed to do was simply imagine all the things they need for their game, which is kind of what they were doing anyway, seeing as this is one big game of pretend anyway. Lore confusion aside, it's not a bad chapter in the saga, and we do at least try to approach the actual mechanics of Barney magic. That has got to be a completely original sentence. Drawing attention follows the gang drawing with chalk. Vivi has drawn another one of her honestly pretty good portraits of her and Nona, while Mel struggles to draw with only one arm. David hypes up Chalky pretty hard to Vivi, reminding her that Mel drew it the best she could with her arm. Vivi, by this point, has asked the two of them to look at her drawing twice, but she does tell Mel the drawing's cool. David leads the gang in summoning Barney to witness Chalky, and he spawns in with his "Hey, friends!" line recycled from the floor's grape jelly, which is as unpleasant as it sounds. Vivi tells Barney about her drawing, but David shows Barney his almost on model of him, which leads to Barney turning these colors, which is incredibly cursed but also cool to see. Barney is so taken with Mel's drawing that he brings Chalky to life. Vivi spots Nona and tries to bring her over to see her drawing, but Nona is, of course, distracted by Mel's living drawing. Mel tries to draw Chalky a house, but can't manage it. Vivi is quick to draw it for her, but Mel is praised for her coloring work, causing Vivi to, understandably so, go off by herself. Vivi vents to Barney about feeling unseen, and he reassures her that when Nona does see her drawing, she'll love it. Mel then proceeds to create life again in the form of Sketch the dog, and everyone is completely locked in until Mel falls and Barney spawns in this backyard gang Barney pelt chair. Nona leaves the group to make Mel some lemonade, and Vivi continues to be brushed aside. Justice for Viv. When Sketch trips her, Vivi takes the opportunity to pretend that she's hurt her foot. Vivi gets her own comfy chair, attention from David, and when Nona asks if she can do anything for her, Vivi is quick to jump up and show her the drawing. Realizing she stepped on the wrong foot, Vivi admits to Barney that she, obviously, was only pretending because she didn't feel special, and expresses guilt for worrying Nona with her injury. Vivi explains that she only got attention once she was supposedly injured like Mel, and despite the fact that Vivi has asked multiple times, Barney explains that everyone can't read her mind and that it's okay to ask for what she wants. Vivi admits to the others that she would like some attention of her own, and once again, despite Vivi's repeated asking, they tell her that they didn't know. Vivi even states as such, that she didn't ask them. David literally agreed to look at her drawing. He just never followed through on it. Everyone finally comes over to look at her drawing, which is the least they could do. I understand everyone was distracted by the living sketches controlled by Barney magic, but would it have killed Bro to pause that to let Vivi's question actually sink in? The message they want to get across is good. It is okay to ask for what you want, and you should, but Vivi was doing that the entire episode just to get sidelined by whatever was going on. The first thing Vivi asks for in the episode before anything happens is for David and Mel to come look. No wonder she had to fake her foot. Obviously, she shouldn't have done that, but what else would have changed? Barney talked to her for about 2 sentences worth of advice. I guess some of this passion comes from a place of experience, but I think everyone understands feeling shut out to some degree. I really wanted to like this episode, and I do like the 2D flat chalk guys a lot, but this is a tough environment to be a Vivi fan in. Worth the wait finds David and Vivi practicing gymnastics, and they are delighted to find that Mel's arm is now cast-free. Mel is excited to show Barney her special somersault, but finds that her arm is still pretty weak and decides to hang back and talk to Barney about it. Feeling like she'll never be able to do anything fun again, Barney is sympathetic to how hard being patient can be, and tries to cheer her up with an imaginary visit to the Enchanted Forest via a Jurassic Park reference and a quest to find the Firefly Flower. The Firefly Flower, a white flower with suspiciously Barney-colored purple and green spots, will need some time to open, so Barney starts up a game of hide-and-seek. Mel counts to 10 in Korean, which is pretty cool, and finds everybody fairly quickly. Vivi is found next to a very special mystery egg. Not that one. Mel's about to walk off in impatience when the egg starts to shake, but turns around to watch a creature Barney calls a chameleon hatch. I love weirdly specific lore like this, and the half-lion, half-chameleon skitters off while Barney reminds them that they would have missed the creature entirely had they not waited. A firefly catches Mel's attention, and the group finds that the firefly flower has opened somewhat. Barney finds a slide tree, and the gang bounces to the top as Mel's arm gradually strengthens with time. After sliding down, more fireflies zoom into the flower, and Mel talks things over with Barney again. He's understanding of her impatience and reminds her that plenty of things are well worth waiting for, and recounts the other things the forest has shown them. As the sky darkens, the firefly flower finally blooms and shoots out a fireworks show of fireflies in the sky. Mel admits that it was well worth it, and when the gang is back in the park, she's more than willing to give her arm more time to heal. 5 days later, Mel pulls her somersault off perfectly. After struggling with the moral for the last 5 episodes, this one finally gets it. Combining some really fun visuals and animation in the Enchanted Forest with a relatable, cohesive lesson makes for a really fun episode. This episode definitely feels more akin to the adventure stories like Vivi the Brave or even earlier Barney and Friends plots. Overall, an enjoyable watch and a nice conclusion to the Mel's Cast story arc. The Big Spill finds the kids playing pirates, again, and Vivi drawing the playground's fountain. The world's friendliest and most obnoxious pigeon steps all over Vivi's painting before spilling orange paint and standing around to watch the chaos he has wrought upon this world. Unable to fix things for Vivi, David and Mel call Barney in for backup. Barney apologizes and offers his help, but Vivi isn't interested. He gives her space and starts up a game of pirates with a new twist. Vivi the Sea Queen, in her pigeon-induced wrath, summons a storm upon the ship. Baby Bop stirs her on, and the two get angry together. Barney informs his shipmates that they may have to sail through this sea of Vivi's emotions, and David suggests that she thinks of something nice, as that calms him down when he's angry. The clouds fade, and though Vivi still feels angry, she wishes she wasn't. Barney validates her feelings and gives her a chance to express herself. Big Feelings is a pretty good song, and it fits fairly well here. We get a Barney breath situation, although it's not named as such, and just when Vivi is starting to realize good feelings can be just as strong, the pigeon shows back up with her painting in its clutches just to spite her. Despite throwing the ship into another storm, Vivi is able to rein her feelings back in via a calming breath and is ready to get painting again. She decides to do it inside this time and avoid the situation entirely, which is not a bad compromise given how evil that bird is. As metaphors go, it's a decent one. It's a bit frustrating to go the pirate route, again. But Vivi's anger is consistently validated, and she's presented with a healthy coping mechanism to calm herself down once she's felt her feelings. This one's alright. Nature Chat starts with a picnic. Barney and Billy show up, and Billy is permitted to have an actual role in the episode. The evil pigeon returns and does what it does best, cause havoc. After moving her pebble and generally getting in the way, Mel and Barney's game of hopscotch is called off. And after squirrels eat their plantains, Mel's kind of frustrated. Barney is understanding of her complaints, but reminds her that the animals have a right to the park as well, and grants the gang the ability to understand animals and plants, which is wild. I love how chill the butterfly in the jar that they show Barney is. He's just like, hey man, let me out. The flowers tell Mel that they don't mind being picked when they're in bloom, but only in moderation, and Mel, who is taking this existential crisis fairly well, talks to Barney about what she's learned. Meanwhile, the squirrel is sick from plantain, the pigeon is shuffling through garbage, and Billy's butterfly hits them with, "Life's a bummer when you're stuck behind glass walls." So much for being a chill guy. Mel explains to Billy that they're obligated to speak for the usually silent flora and fauna in the park, and that they should have been much more careful on their picnic. Barney is impressed by Mel's care for the plants and animals, and the gang cleans up the park, plants new seeds, and learns to be more understanding of the natural residents of the park. This is one of those episodes with a silly concept that ends up working pretty well. Mel's offered a chance to see things from a perspective that's different than her own, and her opinion changes based on what she's presented with, and she encourages the others to do the same of her own volition. It's one thing to just say, "Be nice to the earth," and another to make good on that promise and teach others. The Great Grateful Scavenger Hunt, say that 5 times fast, follows David and Vivi on a park-wide scavenger hunt. Mel's not really in the mood to join them, and instead opts to be emo under the Barney tree. David and Vivi enlist Barney to cheer Mel up. He tries to put on a live show, if only, and decides to talk to Mel one-on-one instead. Mel explains that she was supposed to go to the movies with her dad, only to have him get called into work, plus a myriad of other problems. Barney acknowledges her frustration and tries to redirect her thinking towards what she may be grateful for that happened today. After inviting Mel to play, Barney accepts her resignation and gives her the space she needs while going back to play with the others. I do like that no one's ever forced to play until they're ready. Barney starts observing the park with his so-called grateful goggles and spawns in two for Vivi and David so they too can look at the playground through a new lens. Pun very much intended. Mel, curious about the goggles, joins in the game, and the gang starts a new hunt for everything they're grateful for. Barney whisks the kids up on a cloud to look for shapes that they can find and plays with Vivi's craft supplies. Mel is even thankful for Barney's tail, which she says wags when he's happy. Even 30-plus years on, Barney is not beating the blue dog allegations. The gang climbs the park's hill to search for one more thing to be grateful for, and David, a bit haphazardly, points out that he's thankful for the movies. Despite wincing, Mel tells him that it's good to put that on the list, and to her delight, her dad makes a surprise appearance. Mel tells her dad what she's learned, and he gets roped into the song montage with everyone. Part of me wonders if this was supposed to air around Thanksgiving, but either way, it's a fun episode. Simple and to the point, but a good way to explore working through feelings and appreciating what you have. Last but not least, David the hero finds David reading his super mega glowing Gary comic and Vivi and Mel playing tag. David isn't super enthused about tag, so Vivi poses the idea of playing superheroes and inviting Barney to play. Barney and his tail are named Buddy Booster, Mel becomes Super Duper Mel for her speed and strength, Vivi becomes Glitter Glue Girl because of her crafts, and David has no idea what to do with any of that. Explaining to Barney that he doesn't feel super the way the other two do, Barney reminds him that he's his own kind of super. David exemplifies this by alerting Grady to a potential squirrel pretzel thief, and Barney names David Observo Man. Barney then turns off the episode's lighting effects and turns everything into a living comic. This is pretty cool stylistically, and reminds me a bit of how they did the almost 2D version of Chip in the Chip and Dale movie. I know, unfortunately, 2D animation may be a bigger ask nowadays, but it would have been neat. Everyone gets a chance to exercise their powers before David realizes his Gary figurine is missing. Sneaky Bop, much in the same vein of Bossy Bop, has stolen it with the help of her villain sidekick, Sneaky Billy. There's something really funny about these two playing Captain Pickles and Wonder Princess and Barney and Friends to them now being supervillains. Something you live long enough to see yourself become the villain. David is worried he won't be able to find Gary, but the gang reassures him that he is more than capable, especially if they work together. Both Billy and Sneaky Bop are apprehended by the gang, but she reveals that she has hidden Gary. David, using his powers of observation, finds Gary inside the Barney tree. David and the others, heartened by their heroic quest, learn that both they and their unique abilities are what make them special. This episode follows in the footsteps of the preceding few stories and feel much more true to Barney. A more complicated story can and will work if done properly, but it lends itself to error more frequently and can fall into those, wait, so what's the moral? Traps that earlier ones in this batch of episodes did. There needs to be carry-through for the episode's ending to feel logical, let alone satisfying. It's a bit of a rocky selection, but when the episodes work, they work. There's so much creativity on display here, and I do love that we're working up to more character-driven plots with Billy and Baby Bop. More adventures, yes, even if they're pirate ones again, are definitely welcome, and I think more episodes like that will continue to fill out Barney's world. Sorry, one last pun. As always, if you're looking to learn more, don't hesitate to check out my friends at Barney Wiki and Barney History Fans. Thanks for watching.